If you're like me, you had a ton of friends recently go to a furry convention that you decided you neither had the monetary need nor this social battery to attend. So rather than attend the convention, you decided to live vicariously through your friends through various Discord posts, calls, and most importantly, Twitter. And we all know that Twitter is the best place to get your furry news that's completely non-biased and not drama-riddled at all. So you deal with the FOMO by watching everything happen through the comfort of your computer chair, only to realize that by the time the con ends, you're kinda glad you didn't go. Now on Twitter, people are posting pictures from their con experiences all over the place, and they get a lot of traction, especially this picture right here. This is a realistic Nick Wilde fursuit. And I have to say, it looks pretty damn incredible, except it's AI. This is the most recent furry drama on Twitter, and the reason I'm talking about it today is not because the person who posted it admits to using novel AI and Midjourney to generate these images, but because of the amount of people that thought this fursuit was real. Genuinely, there are people in the comments that swear up and down that this fursuit that you're seeing right here is 100% legitimate, even though I can tell you for 100% fact it is AI generated, and I can point out why it's AI generated. First, I want to talk about the larger elephant in the room, which is AI generated content in the furry community. I think it's absolutely silly of you to make AI generated content in the furry fandom and try to pass it off as original artwork. It is not. I will never support a prompt generator that says that their AI generated work is artwork. It's not, it's slop. Which is why I spent the last 30 days learning how to draw. So if you want to see that video in the future, make sure to hit subscribe and hit that bell icon so you can be notified when it goes live. Let's get some terminology straight first. AI-generated images are not art. Do not let somebody tell you that it is AI-generated art, because art requires emotion. Art requires feeling put into it. It requires the human connection. Putting a prompt into a machine, having it scrape 100,000 different artists' profiles to generate an image that you are okay with is not art, it is laziness. It's laziness at best, it's theft at worst. Now, when you look at this image, it is very clearly, very obviously AI. And it worries me that there are people in this comment section that don't believe this is AI generated. I can look at that and be like, that's too realistic. That is AI. But saying something is AI is a lot easier than proving something is AI. So what jumped out to me to know that this was AI generated? The first thing I looked at were the eyes. If you look at the eyes, they're entirely too smooth. They're looking at the camera or a person next to the camera and not facing forward, and there's no mesh to be able to see through the eyes. Fursuits are really hard to see out of in the first place. They need meshes in the eyes so you can actually see out of them. The fact that this doesn't should have been the first indication that this is not a real fursuit. But okay, some people touch their fursuit photos up in Photoshop to make it seem a little more realistic. What are some other tells? The next thing I go to is the smile. Now, expressions on a fursuit are nothing new. People do them all the time. But what makes this uncanny is how perfect the smile matches to the expression on the eyebrows and the ears. And on top of that, if we look at the ears, they are perfectly positioned for the expression that this fursuit face is putting off. Now that's a lot of work to do to try to pass off an image as real and legit, and honestly I don't think is worth putting in. And there's a couple other things about the face that throw me off and make it super uncanny, and that is the nose being too realistic and the smile having two dimples. One in the cheek there, and then one right at the crest of the smile. But of everything wrong with this photo, the biggest thing that pointed to me, that told me this was AI, is the lighting. If we look at the background of this image, we can clearly see this is a convention image. Now, I don't know if this part is AI generated. I'm focusing on Nick in the front. But if we assume the background is a real convention photo, then we have to take into account everything about that photo. One of the things AI is really bad about is interpreting lighting. And if we look at Nick compared to our background, his lighting is entirely too hard and directional to match what's going on in the background. The highlights we get on his shoulder and his elbow do not match the highlights that we see on other fursuits in the background. In fact, the biggest thing we can tell about the background is that it's top-down lighting, like a convention space would be top-down with their lights up at the ceiling. That would give you a uniform lighting, but it would be very soft lighting, unlike the lighting we see on Nick. Nick's lighting is a little bit harder, and it looks like somebody put a box light in front and behind him. Actual photographers in the comments will probably know exactly what I'm talking about, but Nick does not match the background. And if we look at the amount of detail on the fur as well, why don't we see that detail in the background? Yes, the background is blurred, but you'd still see a bit of that detail even with that minimal amount of blur. And the other big thing we can see is that the shadow underneath Nick's tie does not match the shadows in the rest of the scene. It is entirely too dark. I was just amazed that people thought this was a legitimate fursuit, and I had to talk about it because we are living in an era where AI is genuinely getting so good, it is confusing people. And I think it's important to talk about these things, to point them out, and say, hey, this is AI, this is not okay. The biggest thing though is that the person who posted this image to begin with says in their bio that they use models like Midjourney and Novel AI to generate these images with Photoshop to touch it up. It's really worrying to me that people will see something on the internet and take it as truth instead of doing their own research into something. And we're living in a time now where that is more important than anything. You have to verify your information. And the line is getting harder and harder to see every single day. Anyway, I just wanted to talk about this for a second because I thought it was really interesting. That's gonna be it for this video. See ya.